But for me, there is something around the art of building change leadership. So, for example, when I think about change in organizations, I often find myself saying to clients, do you know what? Successful change is as much about politics, power, and relationships as it is about other things. And what do I mean by that? Well, in organizations, it's a fact of life that amongst leadership teams, some members of the team are more ambitious than others. Some members of the team will have a star that's on the rise, and others will have a star that's on the fall. There'll be very different levels of support for the particular change, dependent upon the priorities of the business leader concerned. And I think it's also important to get a sense of what's the history of relationships amongst the team. There may be some things hidden away in cupboards which have a material impact on attitudes to the particular change that's crucial to the organisation. So just getting a feel for politics, power and relationships is one of the things that I think is fundamental. The second thing that I was going to comment on was this term that I've coined here, collective cabinet responsibility, which at least in the UK is known as when the cabinet government of the country, they may disagree in the cabinet room, but once they go forward with collective ownership, and if anybody stands out of line, they're toast, or so goes the theory. When I think of that in an organisational context, very often it's crucial that the leadership team have to go through a process of heavy dialogue where they work through tensions and disagreements, often in the early stages of the change process, where you're kind of defining the case for change, because ultimately you want that team to go forward singing from the same hymn sheet, and declaring this is what we have decided to do, this is what we have agreed. The third point on this first slide is something that I coined, well, actually, it was in a client environment, the parallel universe syndrome. I don't know of an organisation that doesn't have to live with one form or another of a matrix organisation. I'm doing some work for one of the big four consultancies at the present time, and actually they have 4 dimensions to their matrix: line of business, professional practice area, geography, and then there are the central support functions. And increasingly in organisational life, it seems to me that many changes originate from the centre of the organisation. It may be a SAP implementation that's going to take effect organisational-wide. It may be a transformation programme. It could be an infrastructure initiative, typically in a public sector environment. But I remember memorably the moment in a workshop where a very senior guy who ran one of the business units said to me, "Well, Ivan," and he was complaining about a centralised initiative. He said, "Welcome to the parallel universe of my organisation." And in effect, and I'm mindful of the question I think it was Claudia raised a few moments ago, he was kind of saying, I've got a business to run here, and the more that I have to concentrate on this centralised initiative, the greater the harm will be to my business.